Hey guys, Miss Turnbull here with your Tuesday video of new content. This next unit is on the surface area of three-dimensional shapes. By the end of this series of videos, you will be able to solve problems involving the surface areas of spheres, right cones, right cylinders, right rectangular prisms, and right rectangular pyramids. The other thing that you will be able to do is to solve problems involving square roots and the cube roots of numbers. So in this first video, we're going to review the area of shapes. And there are a couple of terms that we need to talk about, and then one review term from last unit. So the first one is area, and you'll recall that when we're talking about area of a shape, let's take this square for example, we are talking about the area inside of it. So within this square here, everything inside of this square, even the white spaces I'm missing, this is all area of this square. So that's what the area term means. Composite is a word similar to combination, where we are taking multiple items and combining them into one. So a composite shape, which is what we need to deal with in this unit, involves us combining multiple shapes together. And the last one here is a reminder from last unit. This is perimeter. Remember that that is the linear measurement of the distance around an object. Okay, so let's take a look at these shapes that we have to review. So the first one is the first ones are squares and rectangles. The formula for this one you probably remember, and that is area equals length times width. So let's practice this. This is a square, which means that each side measures the same as this side here. So each side is going to be 8 yards long. So area equals length times width equals 8 times 8, which is 64 yards squared. That's our answer for the area of this square. When we take a look at this example here, area equals 7 times 5, which is 35 inches squared. We could also write this as 35 square inches. Both are acceptable ways for us to write our answer. Squares and rectangles are pretty simple, should be review from years previous in math. The next shape that we're going to talk about is called a trapezoid. You probably remember these guys. They've got a little bit more of a complicated formula. So let's take a look at this formula. It's area equals base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2, and then you multiply that number by height. Okay, so let's call this one base 1. We'll call this one base 2. So area equals base 1 times base 2, or no, plus base 2, not times. Let's just rewrite that. Plus base 2 because we want the average of these bases. Base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2, and then we're going to times that by the height. So that is going to look like this. 6 plus 9 divided by 2, and we're going to times that by 4. So 6 plus 9 is 15, divided by 2 is 7.5, times 4, which is 28, 30. 30 square feet is our area of this trapezoid. So again, for this section of the unit, you're just going to need to remember these formulas. I will post these formulas on the Google Classroom so that you have a place for you to kind of reference as you're doing your work for this unit. The next shape is called a parallelogram. And before we talk about the formula for parallelogram, I want to show you something kind of interesting about parallelograms, because if we take this triangle over here and we move it over to this side, you'll see that now the shape just becomes your regular rectangle. Okay, this is why the formula for a parallelogram is just base times height. Okay, so area of a parallelogram equals base times height. Base is 6 feet times the height, which is 4, which is 24 square feet. Okay, not too tough. The next shape that we have to revisit is the area of triangles. And if we were to copy this triangle and then flip it on the other side, we would see that these two triangles together would create a square, which is why the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So area of a triangle equals base times height divided by 2. Let's practice that with these triangles here. So area equals base, so 8, times height, 8 divided by 2. So this is going to equal 8 times 8, which is 64, divided by 2, which is 32 square yards. And that's the answer for this question here. Let's take a look at this next triangle. Again, area equals base times height divided by 2. So equals 6 times 5 divided by 2. 6 times 5 is 30, divided by 2 is 15 square feet. And our last one here, which looks like maybe you can't do it the same way because this triangle looks funny, but just remember this is the formula for all triangles. So area equals base 10 inches. And the height is still this 8 inches over here, okay? Divided by 2. 10 times 8 is 80, divided by 2 is 40 inches squared. Okay, really simple, really quick review of the area of shapes. The last shape that we need to review for ourselves is the area of circles. And because this is a circle, we're going to have to deal with pi again. And please remember, when you're using pi, use it on your calculator as a full number. Do not simplify it to 3.14 or your answers will be slightly off on everything and you'll lose marks for rounding areas. So I'm just going to write this down here because we're going to have to scroll down to give us some more space. Area equals pi r squared so that we can actually solve these questions here. So area equals pi r squared. This one's pretty simple. They've given us the radius. It's 13 feet. So area equals pi times 13 squared. So let's pull up our calculator, move this over to the side so we can still see it. So 13 squared, I like to do that first just because it's easier, and then we're going to times that by pi. Gives us 530.93 square feet. So area equals 530.93 square feet. Said that right, right? Yeah, 530.93 square feet. All right, let's take a look at this one. This one gave us diameter. Remember that 1 diameter equals 2 radii, which means we need to divide this by 2 to get our radius. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, which is our radius, okay? A equals pi r squared, so A equals pi times 3 squared. 3 squared is 9. So we've got 9 times pi. And we get 28.27. And this is in yards squared. All right, so area of a circle, we're getting used to using this pi symbol. Don't forget, use it as a full symbol from your calculator. Do not simplify it to 3.14. Last thing for this video is to talk about composite shapes. Now, a composite shape, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, is where we take multiple shapes and we add them together into one shape. So what we have to ask ourselves when we're looking at a composite shape is what shapes make up this shape. So this one here has a square here and a rectangle. Area of a square is going to be length times width. Area of a rectangle is going to be length times width. Okay, so that means that our combined area, C for combined, is going to equal the length of the square times the width of the square plus the length of the rectangle times the width of the rectangle. So it's going to equal 32 times 32 plus 16 times 64. Let's type this all into our calculator. 32 times 32 gives us 1,024. And when we put this one in, 16 times 64, that also gives us 1,024. 2,024. Together, that gives us 2,048 meters squared is our combined area of this shape. Okay, pretty simple. Again, we're just asking ourselves what shapes make up this one. So when we look at this, we can see there's a triangle up here and a rectangle down here. Area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2, and we've got area of a rectangle up here. So for this one, combined is going to be base times height divided by 2 plus length times width. So it's going to be 18, and we know that because this base is the same as this base, 18 times 9 divided by 2 plus 18 times 14. So we've got 18 times 9 divided by 2 is 81. 18 times 14 is 252. So 252 plus 81 gives us 333. And that is in square feet. Okay, last one here, and this one's a little bit trickier because it's got half of a circle on the top. So we remember that the area of a circle is pi r squared, but the area of this half of the circle is going to be pi r squared divided by 2. Okay, and this is just a regular rectangle. So area combined is going to be pi r squared divided by 2 plus 15 times 20. Pull out our calculator. Our radius here for this one, I should have filled this in. Our radius here is 6. So pi times 6 squared is 36. We're going to divide that by 2. It's going to give us 56.55. And then we're going to say, okay, plus, and let's put this in brackets, 15 times 20. And we put it in parentheses so that it knows to do the things in the parentheses first before adding them. So it will do the 15 times 20 and then add it to our 56.5486 and so on. And that gives us 356.55. And this is in square yards. All right, these are the simpler composite shapes. When we're talking about a more complicated composite shape question, we're looking at things that look like these questions. All right, these questions not only, so this one here has a half circle and a rectangle, but this rectangle is missing a corner. It's missing a triangle. So we have to use our critical thinking skills to figure out how much space is this triangle and to subtract it from how much this whole shape would have been. So we've got half of a circle again. So we remember the area of a circle is pi r squared, but this is half of a circle. So we're going to have to divide it by 2 again. The area of a rectangle is length times width, and the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So we need to figure out, though, what are the dimensions of this triangle? So again, we're using our critical thinking skills. We have this full side here, it's 5 inches. The side on here that's a little shorter is 3 inches, which tells us it has 2 missing. And the same thing goes for these sides. This is a full side, it's 14 inches. This one is missing a couple of inches. Because it is 12, so this side is 2 as well. Now we have all the information we need in order to be able to solve this. So our area combined here, we're going to put an I here so that we know this is an area of a circle. Area combined is going to be this half circle, so pi, our radius is 14, 14 squared divided by 2, plus the full rectangle. Pretend this triangle was still there. So plus length times width, which is 14 times 5. And then minus our little triangle here. So 2 times 2 divided by 2. Okay. Let's put these into our calculator. So 14, that is not 14, 14 squared times pi. Divide that by 2. And that gives us 307.88. And then we've got 14 times 5, which is 70. And 2 times 2 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. So let's go back here, 70. We're going to add this number. And we're going to subtract 2. And that's going to give us 375.88. And this is in square inches. Okay. Last composite shape, last question for this video. And this one is again more complicated. We see a shaded shape here. The white shapes in the middle are cutouts. So when we're talking about area, we're going to have to calculate the area of the big triangle. And then we're going to have to subtract the area of the little triangle and the area of the parallelogram. And you'll remember that the area of a parallelogram is base times height. Okay, so our area combined in this case is going to be base times height of the big triangle. So 14 times 12 divided by 2. Okay, for the area of that triangle minus the area of the small triangle. So base times height divided by 2, that's 6 times 5 divided by 2 this time. And then minus the area of the parallelogram. This is the same length as this one here. So this is 6 times 3. Okay, so let's pull out our calculator. 14 times 12 divided by 2. Okay, gives us 84. 6 times 5 is 30, divided by 2 is 15. 6 times 3 is 18. So 84 minus 15 minus 18 gives us 51. And that is in square feet. All right, guys, so that was our last example. Stay tuned later today for a practice quiz for you to test yourself on whether you understand the area of these different shapes. It'll give you a practice question for each of these. Make sure you remember to round as it asks you to and to use the full pi symbol. That will help you get the right answer. On Thursday, you will get your next video in this series where we'll start talking about actual three-dimensional shapes and how do we solve questions that look like that. I hope this video helped you out. If you need some more support with this material, please make sure to contact whoever your teacher is. So if it's me, send me an email. If it's Ms. Thomas, make sure you send her an email. If you're not in either of our classes and you have a different teacher, you need to send that teacher an email. Make sure you ask them questions. It's the only way that you can get the support that you need. All right, guys. I look forward to chatting with you on Thursday. Don't forget to book an office hours time if you need to see me directly about any of this stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys later.